Daretti scrap Savant versus Naban, Dean of Iteration. Never played against this commander before, and that hand is no good. Have to knock that back. That is a lot of mana. We can get into a turn 2 Daretti with that, so not sure I want to see another mountain, so we'll put that on the bottom and hope that our opponent doesn't scoop as soon as they see the mana crypt. I'm not going to gamble because, well, I'm not sure what we want, to be honest, but I don't want to discard the Ancient Tomb or the mana crypt. Not sure I care about the Ancient Tomb, actually, when we have mana crypt. Don't know if we want to take too much damage. Yeah, we'll go for a mountain and a mana crypt into our commander. And then I think we can discard both of these. And we do get into Blood Moon, which, when we're getting such a fast start on our opponent, not sure I want to run Blood Moon. Some artifacts would be really nice. Let's see what this opponent actually does. Naban, Dean of Iteration, 2-1 for 2 mana. If a wizard entering the battlefield under your control causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time, so it's kind of like Panharmonicon on a creature. We'll go for Tails because it never ever fails. And what would we gamble for? We can gamble for the Staff of Nin, I think. Not only will that be card draw, but it keeps our opponent's commander off the field. Where are we? Staff of Nin. We get to keep the Staff of Nin. We ditch the only artifact in our hand, which means we're going to have to... yeah, we're going to have to do it this way. Get rid of the Blood Moon and the Staff of Nin. And then we do get into some ramp. And we also get Wormcoil Engine, which is nice. And pass over to our opponent, which I assume will swing in at Daretti and try and keep that. If you leave Daretti unchecked, it can get up to that emblem. I've got it off a few times over the years of my playing Daretti. Our opponent now has a full grip and untapped blue mana, but it's not as likely that they'll be able to counter Daretti's activated ability. There are certainly blue cards that do that, but they're few and far between. And as ever, Tails refuses to fail. What I think we'll do then is go for... we're going to force them to use that Myriad Landscape. These are pretty spiky plays I'm making, but I've been trying to play fair for a few hours now, and it just doesn't seem to pan out. So, and especially against mono blue wizards, I have to assume they do some pretty obnoxious things, so I'm having to play in a non-fun way. But it's not as if the Wasteland gets rid of one of their lands, it just forces them to use it, which they were looking to do at the end of their turn anyway, but they might be holding up counter magic against Alhamrit's Archive, which I'd rather they didn't do, of course. And then if we get rid of probably the Mind Stone because it's less mana, and then we can Staff of Nin, our opponent's wizard. And see if they've got anything else for us in that full grip of 7. Probably throw down the worm coil engine next turn, or try to. We're a mana short currently. But we'll be able to draw a boatload of cards with Daretti and Alhamret's Archive. What will happen there is we'll plus Daretti. We'll draw 4 cards. No, we have to discard first, don't we? So if we discard 1 card, we'll actually draw 2. Because our Alhamret's Archive will double up on it. So we could discard a couple of cards next turn. And we've got another Artifact Planeswalker come out in Tezzeret the Seeker. Okay, they're going for a 0 mana artifact. That might just be a land. No, it's a Mox Amber, which does tap for mana thanks to the Tezzeret being legendary. And we get a Staff of Nin trigger. That Caged Sun is very nice. And we get dealt our first point of damage. Homeward Path is nice to have against a blue deck. So I think we'll play that before we end up discarding it. And then why don't we go just straight into Worm Coil Engine. And then we can discard a couple of cards here. And have to imagine we go for Caged Sun next turn. Coercive Portal is more card draw. That will get us a couple more cards a turn thanks to Alhamret's Archive. I'm going to wait on the Staff of Nin. It does mean that they can tutor for something bigger with Tezzeret, but there might be a wizard that I want to get rid of. There are a few exile effects in blue as well, so we're not totally out of the woods. I think there's some artifacts that get rid of graveyards as well. How likely you are to run those in a blue deck, I don't know. Blue does like to get instants and sorceries back from the graveyard. So exiling all graveyards, as artifacts tend to do. I think there's Nil Spellbomb that gets rid of a target graveyard, but that's a black, or it has a black activated ability, or triggered ability. Alright, they're going for minus on Tezzeret for Sol Ring. So of course they can't go for Nil Spellbomb with this deck because it has black in its cost, or one of its abilities. Opponent's still at 6 cards in hand, and they have 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. Potentially more with Tezzeret. They could really do with getting a creature down because the Worm Coil Engine is going to do some work for us. We could just go for Ugin next turn. I might try and swing in with Worm Coil Engine first. If I know anything about blue decks, they always have Cyclonic Rift when they need it. And lost the flip again, so I think we've lost 2 and won 2 off Mana Crypt. Get down a mountain. I want to play as many mountains as possible because we do have Valakut in this deck. So we'll see if they have a bounce effect to rescue Tezzeret. Well, it's big, whatever it is. 5, 6, 7 mana. Oh, look. The blue deck has Cyclonic Rift. Big shocker. Well, we do at least get to discard things. We'll just get down our mana crypt again, see if they want to counter it. They don't. I'm just wondering if we try and get down Staff of Nin, we can kill Tezzeret. 1, 2, 3, 4. If they want to counter the Staff of Nin, it gets a counter out of their hand. So that's not the end of the world, but they don't. So either they don't have a counter, or they didn't want to use it against that. Now we can sculpt our hand a little bit. If we go for Steel Hellkite, and I think I'd like to just hardcast Alhamrit's Archive. We'll probably go for the Caged Sun next turn. Oh, that's actually pretty tough. We'll just go for Coercive Portal. Yeah, if we go for Daretti next turn, that'll be 4 mana. And then we'll sack this land probably in order to grab the Sun. And that will leave us on 5 mana. And we can go for Alhamrit's Archive on that. Sort of rebuild back up to where we were. I think it was a good play going for the gamble for Staff of Nin, because it's done some work for us this game. It's gotten rid of Tezzeret and their commander. It kind of means that they can't play their commander. Or they can play it, obviously, but they can't keep it around for very long. Might be able to get some value off of it here if they play a wizard or two. Alright, Mishra's Workshop might be worth playing instead, because that is a hell of a lot of mana that can generate. What else could we get out of the graveyard that we'd like? I mean, Steel Hellkite gets rid of their mana rocks. Let's see if they want to counter Daretti. That might have been what they were waiting for last turn. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. I think I'd like to get some more mana, in which case we go for the play I originally wanted to go for. We'll try and get a Sun onto the battlefield. And then we do, of course, name red on that. And then we go for Alhamrit's Archive. And I'm just assuming that our opponent doesn't have any counter magic in hand. We can, of course, respond to any wizards that enter with our Staff of Nin. So we don't mind doing it on their turn. They still have a full grip of 6 cards, and they have 8, 9, 10 mana. So I imagine that they've got a lot that they want to think about. They have to assume that I'm going to kill their commander with Staff of Nin, no matter what they do. And we've got a hell of a lot of mana next turn. How much mana do we have next turn? That'll be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, maybe a little bit more if we decide to go for the workshop instead. In its owner's library, second from the top. Well, we'll probably draw into that. So they might want to counter a triggered ability here. Or an activated ability, not a triggered ability. And then I'm guessing they can get down this wizard at instant speed, so before we kill their commander they'll be able to get some value out of it. Return, and then you draw a card. Okay, fair enough. Gonna be a lot of fast forwarding going on in this game. Okay, our opponent going for Talrand, Sky Summoner. Gonna go after some Drakes. So they do have, most likely do have counter magic in the deck. Well, they at least have some instants and sorceries anyway. It might just be a means of bouncing things around. Mana Vault is good sack fodder. I think we go for Mana Vault on that. And then we'll see what we draw into here. We'll probably just get rid of Skull Clamp and a Mountain. My phone is buzzing. Let me turn that off quickly. Yeah, so what have we got into here? We can Starstorm. I think I want to get down Ugin. But we'll get down the Worm Coil Engine first. And then that'll be 3 and 1 more. Get down Ugin, we'll bolt the Talrand while they're tapped out. Hope they don't have a free counter spell. I'd say it's quite refreshing to play against a blue deck that doesn't just counter every single thing you do. It can be quite annoying. And we'll just get this down as some sacrifice fodder. And hope that they don't go for getting the Cyclonic Rift out of their graveyard again. So this is Daretti, Scrap Savant. This is the type of stuff it wants to do. You can generate a lot of mana with things like Caged Sun and Gauntlet of Power. Mana Vault is good because you can play it and then once you've tapped it for mana, sacrifice it to Daretti. And we'll probably get down Steel Hellkite or Coercive Portal next turn. And they can get back their Talrand with... Oh no, that's return it. Yeah, wizard you control to its owner's hand, so... They have a turn to do things with their commander before we get down Staff of Nin again. And what we'll probably do is go for a Staff of Nin, and if they counter it, then we can just get it back out of the bin with Daretti. Okay, they're going to Wheel, which shuffles everything from the graveyard back into our library, and then we draw a load of stuff. We of course drew way more than they did because of our Alhamret's archive. And we have mana to do things as well. We could Vandal Blast. We could discard any number of these if we want to. Precursor Golem isn't terrible. Yeah, they probably just want to get rid of that Staff of Nin because it was doing some work for them. Okay, we keep losing that Mana Crypt trigger. Might be time to get rid of that. It's dealt a lot of damage to us. Nope, we're not going to do that. We'll just take the damage. Okay, our opponent taking their time, passing priority there. We'll go for 1 damage on the Mana Vault. We have drawn into Commander's Sphere. So I think we'll just go for Ugin and bolt the wizard there. If they want to do something in response, they'll get double triggers off of any wizards that they can cast at instant speed. Nope, they're just going to return it, so we at least got to plus Ugin. And yeah, we're up to the limit break next turn. Gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, 7 permanents from our hand onto the battlefield. And we first swing in. And then we'll see if we can get some value off of this Mirrorworks. A couple of Mind Stones. Sort of free. We get a couple of those, and then 1 and 2. It can be a couple of Precursor Golems, which will give us a total of 6 Golems with the Mirrorworks. It's unfortunate that we don't have our haste generator in the graveyard. And I don't think I care about Vandal Blast. They have a lot of mana now anyway, so I don't see how much difference it's going to make. So if we ditch Darksteel Forge, some mountains, yeah, we've got plenty of artifacts to sacrifice now, so we can get rid of the Darksteel Citadel. Okay, getting down the commander again. I'm assuming that they're going for some kind of combo or something like that, because they're desperately trying to protect this thing. And they're either trying to draw into it or wait until they have enough mana to do it. They've got a hell of a lot of mana now. Let me guess, they've got Cyclonic Rift again. That's 7 mana. You know, so when I say that a blue deck always has Cyclonic Rift when it needs it, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I would say that Modo fishes it up for them. Luckily I'm not. Unbelievable. So easy to get salty against blue players. I mean, in all fairness, they haven't countered any spells or anything like that, but I don't know. To be able to do so much with so few cards, all they've really done this game is play lands and cast Cyclonic Rift a couple of times, so yeah, pretty frustrating stuff. Okay, Rhystic Study, we're going to have to play around now. At least we have some rocks, cheap rocks in our hand that can help us progress a little bit more. We have Valakut, which is really good. That'll help us with getting rid of their commander. Spine of Ishsar would be really nice now to try and get rid of that Rhystic Study, because that is going to slow us down quite a bit. Now, do we go into Caged Sun? I think we have to try and catch up. And then that's 8 mana, so we can try and get down Ugin again. And if they have a Spell Pierce, then they have it. At least it gets it out of their hand. Not that it matters, apparently. Give them a card draw, Aphristic Study. I'm just fearful of this commander. They seem eager to have it on the field, and yeah, I'm never too happy about that when someone's eager to have their commander out, especially if I don't know what it does. I imagine this is the type of commander that can do lots of different things depending on how you want to build your deck around it. And Force of Will will get rid of Ugin. So now they have free reign to do whatever they want next turn with their 4 cards, which I'm sure by the end of next turn they'll have 27 cards in hand. This thing only deals it to to creatures. We can't do it to our opponent. We'll get rid of some of these things. I might regret getting rid of Vandal Blast, but I'm going to do that anyway. Now, next turn we can get down a mountain and bolt our opponent's commander with Valakut. I don't see that there's a whole lot they could do about that. They can counter triggered abilities, but like I think I said earlier on in the game, that's not something that comes up too often in blue. Or there's plenty of cards that do it in blue, but not many people tend to run those cards. Not all of them anyway. There's Disallow, because that is almost a modal card that will counter a spell as well as abilities. Okay, going for Wizard Cycling. I have to assume that they're going for something specific. I hope they're not just dragging the game out for the fun of it, because, well, it's not fun. Now, as for next turn, we have 2... Right, well, that's 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 mana. So we have Mirrorworks for 5, will take us down to 14. Then we can get down a couple of Wormcoil Engines and try and bring the game to a close. They're going to time themselves out if they're not careful. They only have 6.5 minutes left. 4 cards in the hand. I don't imagine they've got too much to think about. Okay, don't know what that is. A giant wizard. I've never seen that before. 5, 6, 7. Tap an untapped wizard you control. Return a target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. Oh, and it's not even affected by summoning sickness. That's an obnoxious card. So it can do it to itself. Whether our opponent knows that or not is anyone's guess. So that might just be bounce counter. Get 1 damage dealt to us. And now we get to bolt their commander. We do want to do that. Now they didn't bounce it back to their hand, so I'm assuming they're holding up 4 mana for something. We'll see if they want to counter our Caged Sun. In fact, no. I was thinking about getting down Mirrorworks first, but I think that's greedy. Yes, we do. We want to play around Rhystic Study as much as we can, especially when they're down to just 3 cards in hand. That will be Mirrorworks. Okay, they're going to bounce the Caged Sun, so we're just going to tap all that mana in response. And then, yes, we are going to pay for that. So what I think we'll do here, yeah, Worm Coil Engine, won't be able to get a copy of it. Magic's Lattice. Mirrorworks is when something enters. I think in that case we'll go for Daretti. We won't pay for Rhystic Study. And we'll try and get down the golems. And when the golems enter, we'll be able to pay 2 on Mirrorworks. Is this the first counter spell of the game? It is, negate. Right, so they are running counter magic. In that case, we'll get down our Goblin Welder. And we will pay 1. We'll pass over to our opponent, who needs to do something in the next 4.5 minutes. If they get down a lot of wizards, or I might do it anyway, I might just Starstorm and get rid of this thing, because that is way too good to keep around. Watch them overload a Cyclonic Rift from the graveyard. Alright, their commander now costs 6, so if it goes into the command zone again, that will be up to 8. See if they can get any good ETB triggers off of the wizard. Oh, his army, speaking of obnoxious wizards. So now they can either tap a wizard to draw a card, or they can bounce something. And they have a combination they can do, yeah. They're going to bounce the Goblin Welder. I don't see what their win condition is though, because they're not actually doing anything to us other than infuriating us incredibly, that is. This is what I mean, it is frustrating to play blue. It bounces all your stuff, it draws lots of cards, it counters the things you're trying to cast. You know, I don't mind getting stomped by big green creatures, or having my stuff destroyed by black and them having to kill themselves to draw more cards. You know, all these things, but blue can be really annoying to play against. I wonder if this is just like a Rage Quit deck. Well, I'll tell you what, if you time out, I'll take that win. Because you haven't actually done anything to us this game. So I'm really hoping that people don't find this too boring. I'm going to go for... No, actually, Mindslaver is legendary, so getting into mirror works wouldn't do a whole lot for us there. We use 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 mana. That could get us into 2 Caged Suns. I think that's greedy though. We'll just go for the 1. This should be on auto yes and auto yield for our opponent. That keeps ticking down every time it comes up. It might be a new player, but that saves you valuable seconds, especially if you're playing a slow, grindy game like this. So we need to do this for 6 if we're going to do it, which means 8 mana is getting dumped into it. It is instant speed, but I'd like to see if we can actually do anything else during our turn. And if they have counter magic in hand again, they only have 2 cards. They might get another one off his army. And again, ticking down when this thing should be auto yes and auto yield. But I don't see how they can do anything to us now in 2 minutes, especially if they're wasting their clock like this. Yeah, they're going to draw a card. Don't think our opponent's been saying anything to us. No, they haven't. Always worried about, after that Grizzlebrand opponent, the one that I faced against Niv-Mizzet, the salty guy, I remember flicking over to the chat and seeing a wall of text. We will pay for that. And they can bounce a wizard back to their hand. This thing's unreal that it should be at least tap another untapped wizard you control if they want to get around the summoning sickness thing. Yeah, so they can get into that again next turn if they want to, but we will, I think, get rid of Azami, which is really good to get rid of. We're going to try and get down our Goblin Welder again. And pass over to our opponent. So it's turned into a pretty anticlimactic game. You have seen what Daretti typically wants to do though. Get out artifacts, sacrifice artifacts for value. For instance, we can sacrifice Mana Crypt and Mana Vault in order to get out things like Worm Coil Engine and our Hamlet's Archive, Mindslaver, or we can hardcast all these things with effects like Mishra's Workshop and double mana from Mountains and Caged Suns. I mean, what else is there to talk about? You can get value rocks like Commander's Sphere, where we can get some card draw on the go, which is few and far between in red, especially mono red. Okay, so more bounce. Probably getting rid of the Goblin Welder. We have Anger in the... I think it's called Anger, the thing that gives everything haste if it's in the graveyard. So it's a shame we haven't gotten into that. Otherwise we could have made much more use out of Goblin Welder. Very powerful card. Really good. We could sacrifice Mana Leak to grab the golems, for instance. And unless they can do 27 damage in the next 5 seconds, looks like we've got the win. Yep, so they didn't really seem to have anything. Apologies for the, I don't know, lackluster game. I don't know if it was particularly boring or particularly enthralling to any of you. Maybe some of you like these crazy mass bounce blue decks. You got to see some pretty good board states from Daretti though, so it at least shows that off. Not sure about what kind of win our opponent was going for there, if they were looking for something very specific. They still had 72 cards in their library to filter through. So, yeah, I don't know if our opponent just got unlucky there, or if we just managed to keep a lot of pressure on them with the Staff of Nin and whatever the hell else we cast that game. I can't even remember. We did so much. But yeah, you got to see what Daretti does, so I think I will go ahead and upload this. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.